Welcome to The Fight on Matrix Midwest with Randy Carricker and company.
Hi, kids, and welcome to The Fight. Great to have you with us. That's Andrew. I'm Randy, and we determined before we came on the air here that there are certain people we don't want to beat in cornhole. And some you'll get shot if you beat a guy.
You know what? I'm pretty good at cornhole, so I think I'm going to take my chances here.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, just Google the story, cornhole player. Coming up, J.J. Weatherholt is a Cardinal. Nelson Velasquez is not. Plus, our preseason Cardinal award winners. But we're going to get things started with our quick hits. And back in 2000, after the St. Louis Rams won the Super Bowl, future Hall of Famer Isaac Bruce signed a 7-year, $42 million contract. 26 years later, after the Seattle Seahawks had won the Super Bowl, their top wideout, NFL Offensive Player of the Year Jackson Smith-Njigba, signed a 4-year deal worth $168.6 million, $42.15 million a year. Isaac signed for 42 over 5. And Smith and Njigba signed for 42.15 a year. He did set career highs in receptions with 119, receiving yards with 1,793, and touchdown catches with 10. He led the league in receiving yards, was third among wide receivers in catches, and tied for fourth in touchdown receptions. With the way the NFL is now, he deserves that.
And he should thank his quarterback, too, Sam Darnold, for helping him get there, because we know Geno Smith wasn't going to give this guy
He had 100 catches with Geno Smith the year before.
Right, but like in this case, Geno Smith's not winning you a Super Bowl.
No.
Sam Darnold can help win you a Super Bowl as things are falling apart on us here. And, I actually think this is really good for Jackson Smith-Njigba, Randy, because he's not somebody that I think typically you'd say should or would be the highest paid wide receiver in football. You'd lean Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson, a big name like that. Now we're starting to see Jackson Smith-Njigba start entering the territory of those two guys.
And those two guys have both held that title. You have to believe that Puka Nacua is next, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Puka has to replace Smith-Njigba as the highest paid wide receiver in the game.
He's the most talented receiver I've ever seen. And now, granted, you watched a lot of football, so you would know. Right, but like for me, Puka Nacua does things that I've just never seen before out of anybody from 1997 until today.
There's one receiver in the history of the league that's had 6 consecutive 1,300-yard receiving seasons, and that's Torrey Holt. Not in the Hall of Fame, but he did things that nobody else ever did.
And trust me, I think he should be a Hall of Famer, too.
Yeah, he was better than Nacua was. J.J. Weatherholt made the Cardinals. That doesn't surprise anyone. Pubbo Heim Bloom saw exactly what he wanted from Weatherholt, and he told him so.
The same thing he's shown us since day one. He's a pro, he was happy. But I think he's gone about his business this entire camp like a big leaguer goes about his business. It's not just what he does on the field; it's how he does everything. He is very consistent, very professional. So he was happy. He gave us a smile, but he was himself.
Certainly no surprise, and as you saw there, Weatherholt is going to wear number 26. In a somewhat surprising move, the Cardinals sent their leading hitter this spring, Nelson Velasquez, to Memphis. He was in camp on a minor league contract, and the Cardinals didn't want to tinker with their 40-man roster, so the player that hit the best in spring training, leading the team in homers and batting average, isn't going to be with the Cardinals for opening day. I'll tell you what, there's got to be a guy on that 40-man roster that isn't as good as Nelson Velasquez.
I could name at least 2 right now, and the one that I think we could just default to is Jose Fermin. He's a guy that, he's 26 years old, Velasquez is 27, so they're still both very young players, but I just don't understand how you're in this spot where you say, prove it to me and you'll be in the lineup. And then Nelson Velasquez proves it in spring training, but it's like, we don't really want to value spring numbers in offense as much as we do with pitching, because Andre Pallante is going to be in the starting rotation. It's obvious that valuing him and what he's done this spring has helped him. Why wouldn't you do the same for Nelson Velasquez?
And here's another thing, and you mentioned Fermin, but he's on the team. So is Thomas Sajasi, so is Ramon Urias. Well, you've got 2 starting middle infielders, right? And you've got those 3. So you're going to have an unmitigated disaster if Cesar Prieto is ever going to be on this team. He's on the 40-man roster. So if you're going to lose 5 infielders, let's say 4, you lose 4, and you've got to use Prieto, you can use anybody. It doesn't matter who it is, whether it's him or somebody else.
And all three of those guys do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Fermin, Sajasi, and Urias. Well, Urias he's more of just an infielder, but I'm sure he could play left field if they asked him to. I know that they like Nathan Church's glove, so I'm assuming that that's why he is going to be projected as the starting left fielder. I'm not saying he will be, because who knows at this point. I thought Velasquez was going to be the starter.
Yeah. NCAA, when the brackets first dropped, we gave you our national champions. And before you ask, both predictions are alive and well. But after the opening weekend, let's revisit those choices with the Sweet 16 upon us. I had Michigan beating Arizona, and I still feel really good about that. I think Michigan and Arizona are the two best teams, the two most physically gifted teams. And I went with Michigan, and with the way they played against SLU, I'm going to go with them.
And I'm starting to worry about Iowa State, especially with the injury of Jefferson, and I just don't know what his timeline is truly like, and I also don't know how badly he wants to play through said injury if he is allowed to do so. I would say if I had to change my mind today, or if you gave me if I'm on deal or no deal and I could swap cases, I would swap cases for Michigan today. I like what I see out of Michigan. I think they're such a dominant team. I know Arizona is just as dominant at the top of that bracket, and that would make an awesome Final Four. But at the same time, I could see Arkansas actually knocking off Arizona.
Here's a team that I think should scare everybody. That's St. John's. They played great in the Big East. They had a great tournament. They've beaten UConn 3 different times this year. And Rick Pitino is arguably the greatest college coach of all time. So with what they have talent-wise and with what they have coaching-wise, I really like them.
It wouldn't shock me if the 5 and 3 seed come out in the Elite Eight to force a Final Four up in the top left corner. I don't like what I've seen from Duke at all this tournament. I really am not overly flattered by UConn in this case, although they have the prowess and the experience of being at this stage in the tournament, so I don't want to count them out either. But I also like Tom Izzo and what Michigan State's been doing.
No doubt. At The Athletic, Jim Bowden has ranked the Cardinals as the 27th best lineup in baseball, or the fourth worst, if you want to put it that way. Depending on how you look at it, is that fair? The Dodgers and Yankees are 1-2. The 5 just above the Cardinals for Bowden are the Marlins, Rays, Nationals, Guardians, and Twins. The 3 below are the White Sox, Angels, and Rockies. I really do think that when you look at the Cardinal lineup, and we don't know how they'll turn out, but I do think the potential with Weatherholt, Wynn, Gorman, Walker Still, and then you've got a guy like Victor Scott. I think there's potential there for the Cardinals to be good. But based upon history, 27th is not unfair.
Well, and this is when you look at, hey, this is a national media writer writing about a local team that is paying a lot more attention to what the moves are, what the headline moves are, more than they're actually looking at who's in the system and who can be really good. So when you see the Cardinals take Nolan Arenado off the roster, Wilson Contreras off the roster, Sonny Gray off the roster, in the mind of the national media, that is, the Cardinals are not trying this year. So why would I think the Cardinals are going to have a good lineup? And that's why I really believe that they're 27th. I don't think that it's unjustifiable that it could be that for this team, but I'm with you. If you can get J.J. Weatherholt to be the guy that you think he'll be, and Mason Wynn takes strides, Alec Burleson looks like an all-star again, boom, you kind of have something working here.
By the way, this tells you a lot about where baseball is. There's no way a franchise with Mike Trout on their roster or a franchise that plays in Denver in that altitude at Coors Field, there's no way that those two should be the bottom 2 offenses in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, they are the grass carps of this league, and there's no reason for that.
Hey, let's talk some Blues. We've seen it before where a reset hits and suddenly the team finds another gear, but what's really stood out this time is how it's happening. Most importantly, the Blues have been competitive again, and they're having some people grow up. Some people are developing. Logan Mailloux is playing well. A healthy, and you need him to be healthy, but Philip Broberg, who last year had his injury problems. Dylan Holloway, who's had his injury problems this year. You see those guys rising up and becoming the players that Doug Armstrong thought they would be. And I think the biggest one, and Mailloux has gotten better, but who would have thought at the beginning of the season that Joel Hofer would be a number 1 goalie?
Yeah, nobody. Because it's Binnington and then it's everybody else. But now it's going to be Hofer and probably everybody else. The group that really impresses me and that's really felt refreshing is that top line. I love seeing, you mentioned a healthy Dylan Holloway and what that can do for a team. But you put Jimmy Snuggerud, who is definitely taking the right strides forward, and Robert Thomas, who just helps everybody. That top line, since the Olympic break, has more more points than games played. We spent the entire first half of this season talking about how we struggled to get somebody to 10 goals. And now you're seeing this top line truly perform like a top line, which is only good heading into the offseason.
And if the Blues don't make the playoffs, we don't expect that they will, how valuable is this time going to be for people like Dvorsky and Stenberg and Lindstein?
Yeah.
The fact that they've played almost a half a season in the National Hockey League. For Lindstein and Stenberg, it's more like a quarter of a season. That's really important time for any player to get, and the Blues are getting some valuable time for those guys.
It's a blessing in disguise, and you also have to factor in what we saw in the Olympics with Dvorsky, and we talked about that during that period of time too. I can't wait to see what he looks like next season.
He's going to be fun to watch. Those are your quick hits here in the fight, and later in the show, we're going to have some risky business. We're going to build a parlay for you. Looking forward to that. But coming up next, with the Cardinal season starting Thursday, we're going to tell you who's going to win their superlatives. That's next in the fight. Hey, I want you to know about my friends at St. Luke's and their urology department, which is the best in the business. It offers expert, patient-centered care for both men and women, treating everything from kidney stones and bladder issues to prostate health, urinary incontinence, and cancer screening and treatment. The team also specializes in vasectomies and reversals, male infertility, testosterone therapy, and sexual health. Conditions that can be tough to talk about, but that St. Luke's handles with discretion and respect. The team includes board-certified urologists and experienced advanced practice providers using minimally invasive approaches, including robotic surgery for faster recovery times. Whether you're in West County, St. Charles County, or South County, St. Luke's Urology has a location near you, and all of the providers are currently accepting new patients. To schedule an appointment, call 314-205-6060 or visit St. Luke's on the web at stlukes-stl.com. All right, we have our Cardinal season superlatives. Don't forget the Cardinals open the season on Thursday. On Friday at noon and at 4, you will see Fastball here on Matrix Midwest, a 1-hour recap, a condensed version of each Cardinal game the day after the game, and it'll air at noon and 4 here on Matrix Midwest, the 4 o'clock showing, by the way, right before us.
And you know, I might watch that even though I'm watching opening day in full. I really want to see what Fastball it can be this season. And I know a lot of fans are really going to enjoy that because not everybody wants to watch the Cardinals this year, but you still want to be up to date on what's going on. It's going to be a great resource.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Meanwhile, we have our preseason superlatives, and unless we really screw up, we'll keep this segment and give it back to you at the end of the season. But I will start with my Cardinal MVP for 2026, and I put a lot of thought into this because originally I thought Mason Wynn, but then you know what? I'm going to go with Alec Burleson. I think that he is going to be the Cardinals' best hitter overall, hit for power, all of those things. And I think that he's a good enough first baseman. He'll save a lot of errors. That's my guy. Alec Burleson is my Cardinal MVP for the year.
I think that's an awesome choice because he's just been so consistent. If Donovan was still on this team, I would say him, but he would have been my 1B in that equation because he just has done everything that's been asked of him. And we didn't really need him to hit for power the past couple of years. Now you kind of want Burleson to be a power bat in your lineup, even though he hasn't really shown that all too much, but he can hit the ball very far, and we saw that in the AA game at Springfield. He hit it opposite field as well. He can hit it to all parts of the field. He's just a really good hitter overall.
Most underrated Cardinal.
I would agree. Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. Okay, my MVP, and I'm going to reach here.
Okay.
J.J. Weatherholt.
That's not a bad call.
I think it's J.J. for a couple of reasons. One, I didn't really think there was ever an afterthought that he wouldn't be on the opening day roster, even though we were kind of waiting for that official decision. But number two, what I saw from J.J. Weatherholt in the minors last year and how quickly he rose and how awesome he looked in AAA. And we saw the home run streak, right? It was just, what was it, like 8 or 10 games? Like he just kept hitting the ball far beyond the wall, and he would hit gappers all the time. JJ is just that type of player that I think would want it enough to be an MVP in his first year.
And he's a terrific defensive player. And like you say, he can hit, He can hit for power. You saw the speed there. He can run. He can field. He can do everything that you need to do. So I think that's a great call. When he reaches his peak, he has a chance to be great. Okay, hitter of the year for me, it's easy. Ivan Herrera. He's the one guy that can put everything together. He can hit bombs like that. He's a guy that can hit 290, hit 30 home runs, have an OPS of 912. I really think that he can be, and I think he will be, obviously, the Cardinals' hitter of the year.
And I'm with you. Ivan Herrera is my choice, too. I don't really see another player that has the potential to be the best hitter on this team outside of Ivan Herrera. And if you want to get somebody that's close to that, maybe it's Weatherholt, maybe it's Burleson, but we're talking maybes here. We know that Ivan Herrera can be a great hitter. And so if he can keep his swing intact and just stay healthy, if he's not, injuring his throwing arm or, injuring his lower body like we saw last year, if he can stay healthy, and I really would love him to just strictly be a DH. I think that would be best case scenario for his career, and I think he could really take off if he just stayed that way. But I know the Cardinals are going to use him in a variety of forms, but he has shown us that he can be the best hitter, and I would actually think that he probably hits 30 home runs this season.
And the one guy, you used him as your MVP, but J.J. Weatherholt could wind up being the Cardinals' best hitter because he has all the attributes to be a great overall hitter. Okay, pitcher of the year, I'm going with the opening day starter. I'm going with Matthew Liberatore. He had a terrific 2025. He was even better in spring training this year, and he's starting on opening day. The Cardinals look at him as their main guy, and look at that curveball, and look at that number. I mean, curveball, number 32, left-handed, Sandy Koufax. That's what you got, right? So I'm going to go with Matthew Liberatore as my Cardinal pitcher of the year.
I struggled with pitcher of the year more than any on this list because it just seems so wide open. Anybody could be the Cardinals pitcher of the year. McGreevy could be that. Leahy with his runway could be that this year. But I'm also going to, I'm going to bet the chalk. I'm going to use that term loosely and say Dustin May. Dustin May, the new addition. I've seen a lot of good things out of his game as of late. He's throwing the ball really hard. He looks like the front end of a rotation starter, possibly a team's ace, if he can keep up with what we saw last season. Ignore the high ERA. This is a guy that strikes out a lot of batters. He's got good swing and miss. And if he stays healthy, the Dodgers thought this guy was going to be the ace of their rotation at some point in time. If he can stay healthy, he could be that guy for the Cardinals, whether it's just until the All-Star break or trade deadline, or maybe for the future.
And we saw on Tuesday night or on Monday night against Springfield, he's got electric stuff. He has a terrific fastball, terrific breaking ball. He's got the demeanor to be a number one. The only problem he has is that he's a starting pitcher wearing number 3. He's got to have a better number than that. If he's going to be a number one, he's got to have a better number than that.
What would you say is a better number for Dustin May to wear? Give me a range.
I would say you want to leave anything in the 50s or 60s out of there. So I think Brule is 47. I would think, hey, Liberatore gave up 52, right? So that'd be good. You could probably get Roycroft. He was 85 with the Dodgers and Red Sox.
Right.
You could probably get Roycroft to give up 58 and go backwards there. I think that'd be good. I think there are other good numbers for Dustin May to wear. Way better than number 3.
Number 3 seems like a shortstop. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
I think a shortstop did wear number 3.
A couple of them did, yeah. Your guy Khalil Green.
Yep. Edgar.
Yeah, there you go. I think Cesar Azturis may have worn number 3 as a member of the Cardinals. So there you go. Okay, reliever of the year. Even if the Cardinals only win 75 games, or even if they win 70 games, Matt Swanson is going to have 30 saves. He is going to be the reliever of the year. He is going to be the guy from day one. He's already saved 27 games in the minors. He's comfortable with getting the 27th out, and he's got the repertoire of a great closer. So Swanson is your reliever of the year.
It actually shocks me how out of touch some Cardinal fans are with this bullpen based on who's coming back from last season, because, and this, I'm really just going to, ISO on fantasy drafts here, but I've done 3 fantasy drafts now with plenty of Cardinal fans, and Riley O'Brien's the name that everybody is snagging off the board, saying he's the Cardinals closer. And that's not to say that Riley O'Brien won't get his save opportunities, but I'm with you. I think Matt Swanson is the guy that is the next Ryan Helsley. It's not just a committee, he is our closer. He's our go-to 9th inning guy, and he showed me enough last season to be that. So if it wasn't him for me, Randy, I didn't want to just match you again like I did with hitter of the year. So I went with a new face again, and Ryan Stanek. And he is a pitcher that's just proven a lot in Major League Baseball, and that's why I think he will be reliever of the year in my mind. Kind of gives me those Phil Maton vibes.
Yep.
He's the guy that can set up for the Matt Sponsons of the world, somebody that really delivers. We saw him strike out the side at Springfield on Tuesday. He is just a gamer, and he's, like I said, he's experienced. He's been there, done that, and the Cardinals need that in their bullpen.
Yeah, and I don't think that we as fans could appreciate how difficult it is to pitch with a one-run lead in a leveraged situation. And Baby O'Brien will be that guy in the eighth, the Baby Joe Romero. But last year at this time, we were thinking, oh, Phil Maton, he's just kind of a fill-in guy. He's not going to be the eighth inning. And he wound up being the eighth inning guy all year long. I'm with you. Stanek has shown it before. He's pitched in the postseason. He's got great stuff. There's no reason to think that he won't be a great reliever.
That is another great point, the postseason pitching, because you talk about meaningful innings. He definitely has plenty on the back of his baseball card.
All right, my breakout player, and I used this earlier when we talked about surprises this year. I think Nolan Gorman is going to eclipse his total of 27 home runs in 2023. I think Gorman is going to break out. I think he's going to hit more than 30. There you see that light tower power that he has. When he hits it, it goes. And I look at him as a guy, and he might not have an 800 OPS. He might have a 780, 785 OPS, but he's going to hit 30 home runs, and he's going to be the Cardinals' breakout player, and he's going to join Ivan Herrera as two Cardinal power hitters.
He has the demeanor to break out. He never seems like he's in his own head, even when things aren't going right. The problem was last year was Nolan Arenado occupying third base.
Yep.
It would have been Nolan Gorman's spot to start the year. And then when you put a guy in limbo like that, you know, he's coming off the bench ice cold sometimes, or he gets his spot start here and there. Now you're throwing him at second base. You're potentially putting him in a different spot, DH. Now he's playing third base when Arenado needs a day off. You finally give this guy a home, and I think that's what's going to be the difference for him.
Last year, he did not play more than 3 games in a row until June. Once he started playing more than 3 games in a row and they gave him a chance to settle in, he did pretty well. And then he got hurt, and that set him back. But if he can stay healthy and he's in better shape, and if they let him play, then he can be the guy. That being said, I think one of the reasons that Urias is here is that if Nolan Gorman washes out for whatever reason, I wouldn't be at all surprised to see the Cardinals move Weatherholt to third and move Urias, who won a Gold Glove 3 years ago, plugged in at second base.
My breakout player, Randy, I'm going to my guy in center field, Victor Scott II. And some people at home might be thinking, what do you mean? This is a guy that was in the lineup all last year, and, you know, he has elite defense, probably some of the best center field defense in all of Major League Baseball. His bat is what I think is going to break out this season. I don't believe Victor Scott is going to end 2026 as the 9-hole hitter on this team. I believe he's going to be the leadoff hitter, and J.J. Weatherholt will be the number 2 bat right behind him. And if that works out for the Cardinals, you really have something at the top of your lineup with VS2 at 1, J.J. Weatherholt at 2, Ivan Herrera at 3, Alec Burleson at 4, and say Randy's Nolan Gorman breakout player at 5. That could be something to build around. You just look at the ages of those players and you say, wow, maybe they, and I don't want to reach too far here, but maybe they are better than the 2028 team that we'll end up seeing. Maybe they're better in 27, 1 year removed from the rebuild.
I'm a fan of Victor Scott II. I want him to succeed, and I think he's got all the elements. I don't know what happened last year, but he was a really good player in the minors. He got on base a lot. Obviously, there was a year where he stole 94 bases. He's smart. He wants to be good. The Cardinals always talk about how great he is about staying after games and talking to the coaching staff about how he can be better. I hope that he's a breakout player because I think that he has a chance to be great. It's just a matter of it all falling into place.
And, you know, the other thing I'll say, too, is, I think it became pretty obvious when they sent Nelson Velasquez down, is the Cardinals want to play small ball. Again, They want to have a small ball type lineup. Victor Scott fits right into that equation. And then if that doesn't work, maybe they pivot again. But if he can really execute and focus on the technical side of his ABs, placing a bunt down in the right place, reaching first, stealing second like you're talking about, that's what will make him a dangerous hitter.
All right, finally, our most likely all-stars, and I'm going with the reigning Gold Glove winner among shortstops in the National League, Mason Wynn. He is spectacular. People know who he is because of plays like that. And we saw his offense 2 years ago. Last year he was hurt and his offense took a step back. I think a healthy Mason Wynn will be better offensively. The defense is going to shine. And I think, not that he's Ozzie Smith, but I think he's going to be this era's version of Ozzie Smith. He might not be the most electrifying offensive player, although I think he'll be better, but he will be electrifying defensively, and I think that will sell. Now, is he going to be the starter? He's not going to pass up Mookie Betts as the starter at shortstop in the National League, but I think he's the most likely Cardinal to wind up an All-Star.
He's got the All-Star smile. He's got the look of what you want in an All-Star shortstop. So, yes, I agree. Mason Wynn, he has the attributes to be that guy. Let's just see him put it to work now. And the guy that has put it in, and he was your MVP, who I think will be an all-star by midseason, is Alec Burleson. I don't really need to say much more on Alec just because we've said a lot so far, but we haven't really talked about his defense all that much, and he can make plays just like that on what you're seeing on the screen. Diving plays, he can save and scoop a ball that's in the dirt on a bad throw from either second, short, or third. He's got good defense, he's got consistent offense, and I think that's what makes a Cardinal all-star this year.
Yeah, I love him. And I do think, by the way, if the Cardinals wind up with more than one All-Star in 2026, that will be a win. If both Burleson and Wynn make it, or one of the pitchers and Wynn or Burleson, if the Cardinals wind up with 2 All-Stars, I think that's a win for the first half of the season. Not a Mason win, but just a win overall.
Well, it's a win with 2 ends, right?
It is, yeah.
So, okay, we did 2 hitters. Who would be your pitcher that's an All-Star then, if you had to take a choice today?
I'm going to go with Matt Swanson.
Matt Swanson to be an All-Star.
Yeah.
I like that. I really do. I would actually go with Ryan. I think Ryan could make his way in.
I think that'd be great.
Because there are a lot of good closers in baseball, and all-star lineups typically feature closers. I don't know how many there are good, like in terms of like 7th, 8th inning guys in baseball that Ryan can't compete with.
And the ideal scenario, by the way, for the Cardinals would be neither of those guys. It'd be Dustin May winding up in the All-Star game, because whether the Cardinals want to move him or not, if he's great in the first half, his value is going to skyrocket, and they'll be able to maybe leverage him for something bigger. And if not, then they can keep him around and hopefully sign him to the big deal.
I'm excited for this season. I know a lot of people have, their concerns just because they don't believe the Cardinals are going to be a good team, and you're probably right. In the wins and losses column, they're not going to be a very good baseball team, but you're going to learn a lot about this group, and you're going to finally know what this group can do outside of just what offseason talk has been.
So there you have mine: MVP Burleson, hitter Herrera, pitcher Liberatore, reliever Swanson, breakout Gorman, all-star Wynn, and for Andrew, he's got Weatherholt as your MVP, and I love your hitter.
Yeah, I'm sure you do, Herrera. Dustin May is my pitcher of the year, reliever of the year, Ryan Stanek. Breakout star is Victor Scott, which I hope happens for him, because I think that's best case scenario for this Cardinals team. And then I'm sure you really like my all-star too.
Love that. Yep, love it, because that's our MVP. All right, that is our list of Cardinal superlatives. And don't forget fastball right here on Matrix Midwest every day at noon and 4 after Cardinal games. You'll the next day have the opportunity to see a condensed 1-hour version of the previous days or nights Cardinals game right here exclusively on Matrix Midwest. Coming up in the list, the best games for Mizzou and SLU this basketball season that's coming your way in the fight. It's time now for the list, and today we're reliving the best Mizzou and SLU basketball moments of the 2025 season. See, you were thinking 25-26, so let's just put it that way, okay? And I'll start with this as my number 3, Andrew. In their home game against VCU, St. Louis U trailed by 9 points with 13:19 to go. But in the span of 2 minutes and 55 seconds, keyed by 7 straight points from Kellen Thames, the Bills tied the game at 57. Then, with the game tied at 59 with 9:45 to go, SLU went on an 11-0 run in 2:22 to grab the lead. The lead would grow to 19 before VCU got some garbage time points. So you had a 28-point swing in the space of about 7 minutes in an 88-75 SLU win over Virginia Commonwealth.
Against the second best team in the A-10, you had that big swing, and that's what made SLU scary all season long. It's all 5 players on the floor can do a lot of different things, like get to the rack or shoot the 3. And I mean, all 5 players could do the exact same thing. So it's really hard to scout, and and active hands-on defense here is another way for you to get points in transition. SLU just the best A10 team of the season.
And I really hope that Kellen Thames, if he wants to, comes back and plays. He has eligibility, and he's a really good player. He's a great representative for St. Louis University and for St. Louis. He went to Pattonville. So I hope that if he still wants to play basketball, and he lost a year, he didn't think he was ever going to be able to play again, I hope that they give him the chance to come back here. And I know Josh Schertz is more than willing to give him the opportunity to come back.
And that was going to be my last point. Having Schertz still in the building, it gives me a positive percentage that Thames would want to come back versus a new coach, and who knows if Thames wants to end his career with somebody brand new.
And if you didn't see or hear or read, Schertz officially signed his contract extension with SLU on Monday.
All right, my number 3, Randy. I'll kick things off with a first-time moment in school history. After knocking off the defending national champions, the Mizzou Tigers went into Rupp Arena and defeated Kentucky. Mizzou finished the game on a 15-2 run. They shot 52% from the field and watched Mark Mitchell and Jaden Stone throw up 20-point performances in the win. But it wasn't all fun and games. It was a tight contest, and using deductive reasoning, you could guess the second half was getting away from the Tigers. But shot after shot fell for Pierce, Phillips, and Mitchell when it mattered most, and that's what gave Mizzou the win. I want to revisit that last line. When it mattered most, Mizzou was able to hit the bucket when it mattered most, and that's how you win basketball games, especially when you're losing the energy of the building.
And when you had more than Mark Mitchell performing for Mizzou, they actually wound up pretty good. And they had a couple of games where Mitchell didn't perform great, but if you had Pierce and Phillips and Mitchell or Cruz, you had a pretty good chance of winning. There were so many nights, though, where Mark Mitchell was the only productive Mizzou player on offense, and that's why they wound up being a bubble team at the end of the season. But if you can get everybody to perform, man, that's a pretty talented group.
And this is a group that lost that lead, and they were chasing it in Rupp Arena, not in Columbia, in Rupp Arena. So when you hit that big shot, when you need to, that's how you win basketball games.
All right, my number 2 kind of scared us. It wasn't a blowout by any stretch of the imagination, although it should have been. Mizzou led number 19 Vanderbilt 66-44. They were up 22 with 8:33 to go in the game when it appeared everything would fall apart. But Mizzou was able to cling to the lead. You should be able to when you're up by 22, right? The Commodores went on a 31-13 run to draw within 3, but those 13 points that Mizzou scored during that 31-13 run, eminently important in the victory. 3-point game with 1:07 left. Mizzou was up 81-77 just by 4 as the clock ticked towards 0. Vandy hit a long three-pointer at the end to make it 81-80, but that was it. And Mizzou survived against the number 19 team in the country. And I said that day, the day after that game, that, hey, the committee's not going to look at how you beat Vanderbilt. They're going to say, oh, they beat the number 19 team in the land. Jaden Stone led 5 Mizzou players in double figures that night with 19 in one of the most balanced offensive games of the year.
Yeah, quad 1 wins, whether they're by 1 point or 25 points, they still count the same in the quad 1 wins department. And that's really what helped Mizzou get into the tournament, was all of their ranked quad 1 wins. They had some bad quad 1 or 2 losses that shouldn't have happened,
Illinois.
But all of those ranked teams that they beat, Florida, Kentucky, Vandy, Tennessee, and I'm missing one more. It'll come to me. But all of those ranked wins are how you end up in the tournament.
Yeah,
Okay.
no doubt. And they deserve to be in the tournament, and they deserve to be a bubble team, and they probably ended up where they should have, because what they were in the NCAA tournament is what they probably were all year long. Wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yep.
Inconsistent.
And the problem was you didn't have Mitchell in your final game.
Right. Okay, so my number 2 here. Let's go to SLU for this one, and it could easily be my number 1 if it weren't for the sheer excitement of my number 1. SLU winning a tournament game against an SEC opponent of all teams and setting the school record in wins. That's my number 2, and in a season of other streaks and records, SLU added that one more to the accolade list, grabbing win number 29 over Georgia. The Billikens set all kinds of school records for an NCAA tournament game, too, including points, 102, field goals, 42, assists, 27, margin of victory, plus 25. And the 102 points were a Key Bank Center record in an NCAA tournament game as well. Every Billikens player found the stat sheet that played, in the scoring department, that is. Brown led the team with 18. McCautry fell 1 rebound short of a double-double. And just their ability to manufacture runs in this game was so impressive. You saw them go on a 12-0 run, a 17-0 run, and that's how you beat a team like Georgia, another inconsistent team in the SEC, but can really score the basketball well. Well, if you go on runs and you play good defense, you kind of put that to rest right away, and a bad defensive team in the SEC can't fare well against a good shooting A-10 team.
I was worried about that game that Georgia would be the team that had the blowout because they had the most fast break points in the country, one of the highest scoring teams in the country. There was a point in that game where Missouri was ahead 100-60. They were up by 40 in that game, and they just blew Georgia out of the water. That was really impressive.
And then, of course, they had to run into Michigan next.
Yep.
And we know how that happened. Well, we know what happened at the very end. But also, credit to SLU for making that a game for a majority of it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, Andrew, my number one. On January 30th at Chaffetz Arena, in one of their biggest tests of the year, SLU built a big early lead against Dayton, and they didn't take their foot off the gas. Normally, as you mentioned, basketball is a game of runs. Well, the Bills led by 17 at halftime. They built the lead to 35, and they won it 102-71. Most remarkable, Dayton never led, even for a second in this game. And in the second half, when the Flyers could have gone on a mini run, the Billikens went on a 12-0 run to give themselves a 22-point lead. And then when the Flyers hung around at about 12 or 13, SLU took it from 87-62 to 97-62. That was the most impressive win of the regular season for St. Louis University. They would lose to Dayton later on, and in the regular season and in the tournament, but it legitimized them as a true A-10 power along with Dayton and VCU.
And I don't know if you remember, but I tried to justify the win with an excuse. Like, is Dayton actually as good as we think they are? Because when you beat a team like Dayton, as big as you did at home, it's like, maybe we're overhyping this group. And then, of course, Dayton reminded us who they were down the later half of that season. And then you can go back to that win and say, wow, that was what made it even more impressive is you have a SLU team that not only just stayed as dominant as ever at home, but was able to do that against a Dayton group that went. Did they go the distance? Did they lose to VCU in the title game of the A-10?
They did.
Yeah, and so that goes the distance in the A-10 tournament and possibly becomes a tournament team.
Yeah. And one other note, I think they beat Dayton, right? They got the automatic bid. No.
So SLU got at large, VCU got the auto.
Yeah, exactly. One other note about that game and Josh Schertz is that Chaffetz Arena has become a pit. Opponents don't win there. The Billikens win undefeated during the regular season at home. They stretch their home winning streak to near 20 games, and I think that's notable as we head into next year. You had sellouts in your last 6 games at Chaffetz Arena. It's become a place to be, and when a basketball arena is that loud and that intimidating, and the student section and the band are great, it's going to give your team a great chance to win.
And when you win, people come.
Yep.
That's just the nature of everything. If you are a winning team, people will show up to watch a winning team.
Yeah, good timing for SLU to be winning, right?
Oh, absolutely. They were the only team winning at that time. Okay, my number one. The best moment of the year, in my opinion, was watching Mizzou cash not 1, but 2 buzzer beaters in the same game to take down the Sooners. In Columbia, that place was rocking. It starts with just 5.5 seconds left. Barrett gets the inbounds pass, brings up the ball, crosses the timeline, and just says, hey, Pierce, shoot this from the logo. How about that? You know, when that shot went in, I said, man, that shot was wetter than water hitting water because that thing splashed down, didn't even touch iron. So we go to overtime, and the Tigers found themselves in a similar situation. This time, though, they're down 2 with just over 4 seconds to play. And Mark Mitchell takes the pass to bring it up the court? Okay, let's see you, big man. Oh, I see you, big man. Okay, Mark Mitchell can shoot threes too. He's not just an inside guy. And Oklahoma, thank you for not fouling in the closing seconds of regulation. And thank you for this memory of watching Mark Mitchell bury a 3 in your face to really ruin your season. Because if you beat Mizzou in that game, you probably aren't a last 4 out team. You're probably a last 4 in team.
Yeah, what a great victory for the Mizzou Tigers. And by the way, Oklahoma did rebound, and they beat Mizzou later in the season, but it doesn't get any better than that. When you're playing conference games and you're clinging to a lead or behind and you get those, that just puts a lot of wind in the sails of the team. And I think Mizzou did take off a little bit after that win.
They're a talented group. Like, we talk about inconsistencies, but if you really look at their roster, they are a super talented team when healthy, because middle of that season, when you didn't have Stone for a while, you didn't have Pierce for a while, it was a little bit choppy. But when all of those guys came back, it really started to work. The engine was moving. It's just a shame that it kind of got going a little too late.
That is the list. Coming up, we're going to build a parlay. We're going to participate in a little risky business after this in the fight. All right, time for us to build a parlay here in the fight. A little risky business. And we've got more NCAA tournament basketball, men's and women's, coming up. You know, UConn and Texas are both fantastic this year. And Texas is a 15.5-point favorite over Kentucky.
Wow.
And I think Texas is that good. But I'm not going to go minus 1650, right? So I'll just take them to cover that line at minus 110. Yeah, I don't think that makes a lot of sense to go at minus 1650.
You don't want to put
I think Vegas expects Texas to win this game.
You don't want to put $165 to win $10, Randy?
No, I don't want to. No.
No? Oh, man, that's a good call, because in women's basketball, especially this year, it's totally lopsided.
Yeah.
Totally lopsided.
UConn's going to win it all.
And they've been just, the top teams, the one seeds, have just been dominating everybody. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the men's slate here, Randy, and there's a game that we sort of mentioned earlier, but we didn't spend too much time on. St. John's against Duke, a 5 against a 1. You have Rick Pitino's St. John's group that's playing great basketball, winners of the Big East back-to-back years, winners of the regular season in the Big East back-to-back years as well. And Duke, who's the 1 seed. I still think St. John's is ticked off that they're a 5 seed.
I think so, too.
they got screwed at this point. And so why do I think they can't beat Duke, who almost lost to Siena in the first round, and then barely skated by in the second round too against TCU until they started to really open that game up? St. John's, 235. I think that's great value.
I'm with you. I love that. Okay, so let's take a look at what we got. We're at plus 539 on our parlay here, and we put $100 on this, and we're going to clean up. We're going to get a payout of $639.54 plus 539, and there is your parlay here in the fight. Coming up, we've got Take It or Leave It and Storytime with Uncle Randy, plus Today in Sports History. Stick around. All right, it's time for Take It or Leave It. He's in charge of the graphics. Where are the graphics?
You got to squint to see them. You got to really squint, and then you'll see it.
Good, okay.
Read it, and I bet you'll see something.
I got it. Okay, so as of Monday, Andrew, 8 teams, half of the NHL playoff field, Anaheim, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Columbus, Boston, the Islanders, Utah, and Nashville would make the playoffs if they started today. They didn't make the playoffs last year. So take it or leave it. There's no way the Blues should tear down and get rid of their good veteran players, because a turnaround can happen so quickly.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think a turnaround can happen very quickly in the NHL, so I will take that. Look at this, Randy. See, they're right behind you. You didn't see those right there?
There it is. Okay. There we go.
I think so. It's not worth it, because you look at what the Blackhawks have done since their teardown. Hasn't been very good.
It is not. Took Anaheim forever to get here.
Hey, but guess what? They have great prospects, Randy. That's all I keep hearing.
The
Blackhawks have great prospects.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, you know where prospects end up playing?
Yeah.
In the farm. They don't end up in the NHL.
Yeah.
Okay, Randy, mine for you. 3 coaches have found new homes since being bounced from the NCAA tournament. Sienna's McNamara's headed back to Syracuse. Cincinnati hired Utah State's head man. And Tyler's ASU team is hiring St. Mary's Randy Bennett. Take it or leave it. The team that will be back in the NCAA first out of all of those teams is Arizona State.
There's no question about it.
Here, I'll let you draw your box.
Yeah. So I'll just take it. Yeah, Randy Bennett's a great coach, former SLU assistant. 25 years at St. Mary's. He's really good, and you're exactly right. That's the team that is going to be back first.
Congratulations, Tyler.
Yeah, gotta like that. Okay, now it's time for Storytime with Uncle Randy. Let's spin the wheel and come up with a decade, come up with a story, and we will tell you what's going on. 2000s, 2000 to 2009. And now let's find a sport for you. This will be fun. Let's see, what are we going to have? A little baseball? Hockey. 2000 to 2009. Hockey, huh? Oh, there we go.
Stops on the last leg.
Okay, so one of Andrew's favorite nights came in December of 2006.
How'd you know?
When the Chicago Bears came to St. Louis, and inexplicably, the St. Louis Rams, under Scott Linehan, kicked Devin Hester twice, and he returned 2 punts and kicks for touchdowns. Not hockey. But on that very night, we get word that the St. Louis Blues had fired Mike Kitchen as their head coach and hired Andy Murray, who had been the coach of the Kings. Andy Murray would go on to lead the Blues back to the playoffs after a long drought. They had been down since they fired Joel Quenneville in 2004. Kitchen had missed the playoffs in 2004. You had a lockout in 04, 05, so 05, 06, you're back, and then Kitchen just couldn't make it happen. That team was terrible. So in December of 06, during the 06-07 season, they fire Kitchen and they hire Andy Murray. And I really liked Andy Murray. Andy Murray's first words to us as the head coach were, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And he was a really good guy. I liked Andy Murray. Went on to coach Western Michigan in college hockey. Did a really good job of bringing the Blues back. Reached a point where he lost the ear of the team, and that's when they hired Davis Payne. Kind of a mistake. But I really liked the coaching job of Andy Murray here as a coach of the St. Louis Blues.
So if you're a team in hockey and you want to win something, hire Andy Murray and then just wait a few years, because the Blues win a Stanley Cup in 2019. Guess who won the NCAA championship in hockey last year? Western Michigan.
There you go. Once you have Andy Murray, you're good. Okay, so there you go. And you thought that was a football story that I was going with.
I was like, man, I didn't know Devin Hester played hockey.
Yeah, so
he could go coast to coast.
Turned it into a little hockey story for you. And I remember being at that Monday night game and getting the word that the Blues had fired Mike Kitchen and hired Andy Murray. Okay, time for this date in sports history. In 2019, Mike Trout signed a 12-year, $426.5 million contract with the Angels. At the time, the largest contract in North American sports history. Obviously, it's been eclipsed now by multiple basketball players, plus Shohei Ohtani and Juan Soto. But at that time, man, you thought, okay, Mike Trout's going to go and he's going to be better than Albert Pujols for his career. He has not been because of injuries, and he never will be as good as Albert Pujols. But for that stretch from about 2012 when he came up for good until 2019, he was awesome.
At least the Angels can say he wasn't the worst contract they've ever had.
That's true. No doubt about
they had a third baseman that was a lot worse than that.
That's this date in sports history. Don't forget fastball. After every Cardinal game, we're going to have a condensed version of the previous day's Cardinal game. We'll do it at noon. We'll do it at 4. And, of course, we're always here at 5, at 10 p.m., and then again at 7 the next morning. If you miss it, watch us on the Matrix Midwest app or find us at matrixmidwest.com. We're always findable here. And you can always participate in the fight. Just go to matrixmidwest.com, click on the Character and Company drop-down and sign up, or just send us an email at thefight@matrixmidwest.com. Say, I want to participate in the fight, and we'll get you in.
We will.
Yep. That's a great job by Andrew Rogers today, except for the Tioli thing. Thanks
Better
for tuning
job
in.
by you, I guess.
For Andrew and our director, Tyler Klaus, I'm Randy Carricker, and we will see you next time in the fight. So long, everybody.